I'm not believe in AI. I use ChatGPT on a daily basis, which is the craziest thing of all time. I mean, if the simplest questions that, don't even cross my mind, I'm on ChatGPT all day, every day. Based off of my expertise or what I know about AI, I think the three biggest things is like you were saying, inefficiencies would be time, money, and manpower. If you have an individual, obviously it's expensive to you have employees and expensive to implement new programs and such like or to hire employees. So I think that's just a simple answer where I think AI makes a huge difference. But I haven't really implemented anything within my company or looked too much into it.
Quick favor before we jump in. It always surprised me that a large percentage of people who listen to the show regularly haven't yet subscribed. If you're a commercial real estate operator, investor, or builder who values conversations like this around deals, capital, and technology, please take 2 seconds and hit subscribe. It's a simple, free way to support the show. My commitment to you is that my team and I will continue bringing you higher level operators, stronger conversations, and real execution level insights every single week. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. Welcome back to the AI Edge podcast. I'm Louis Fernandes. This show is for operators, investors, deal makers who are actually in the trenches, moving deals, raising capital, and navigating real-world execution. Today's guest is Samuel Weiner, managing partner at Brooklyn Land Title. Samuel sits in a unique position in the market. He's involved in transactions across asset classes, across operators, across deal structures, which gives him a real pulse on what's actually happening behind the scenes of the real estate deals today. This episode is about deal friction, what really happens between contract and closing, and where most operators get blindsided. Samuel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Sam, when someone asks you, what do you do? How do you answer that?
The simple answer is I do title insurance. I guess you could say, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know specifically what that is. But would you rather me go over a little background about myself and then I could obviously get into title a little bit?
100%.
Sure. So I am born and raised in Long Island, New York. From there, I went to Indiana University. I was a direct admit to the Kelley School of Business, which I wanted to be obviously business oriented, but I didn't know specifically more towards graduation exactly what I wanted to do, whether anything, any occupation, I should say. Real estate was very, top of mind and interesting to me. So I went to a close family friend who's a very successful real estate investor, owner, operator himself. And I said, listen, you're obviously very successful. I'm not asking for any handouts, but, what do you think based off of knowing me my whole career or life, I should say, would be a good career path? And he said, you'd be great in either brokerage or title insurance. So I said, interested in brokerage. Any introductions are greatly appreciated. What the heck is title insurance? And long story short, he told me, it's a niche real estate product, but you need it in all transactions. And, if you build the right relationships, you could be very successful. Sounds great. Sign me up. So he introduced me to a owner of a real estate title insurance firm that was actually from the same town that I grew up in. I joined them shortly after graduation of college. This is in 2019. The firm is called Langdon Title, prominent title firm here based in New York. I was with them for about, give or take, let's just say 5.5, 6 years. Great time there, learned all about title insurance, mostly about the sales, business development, client-facing side of the business. I had a short transition to a firm funny enough, called Riverside, because we're on this. I was with them for about, give or take, about 4 to 6 months. They got into some legal issues, nothing bad between us. But once everything happened with that, really what happened was my fiance was like, you could join another title insurance firm. You should start your own firm. And I was like, I didn't really think of it like that. It was a great opportunity. I had the time. In the worst case scenario, she said, listen, if it doesn't work out, you could most likely join another title firm. So I ended up partnering up with my current partner named Chris. He was at an existing title insurance firm based in New York as well. He's an attorney by trade. We partnered up and we formed Brooklyn Land Title. This was in about, give or take, March of 2024. So we just hit a little bit over 2 years. We are a national title insurance firm. We're based here in New York. We have headquarters in Brooklyn, in Park Slope, right next to the Barclays Centers. We also have an office here in Manhattan. We handle both residential and commercial, all real estate transactions. You need title insurance on all purchases, refinances, and loans. We work with all the major underwriters, so we really have the ability to handle any deal, any size, anywhere across the country. And we've been growing our team of both attorneys, support staff, and really sales individuals helping us, like you were saying before in the introduction, all the way from contract to closing to make sure all of our files go smoothly. So that's a little bit about myself, my background, my current firm. Happy to go into a little bit about title insurance, what it is, or if you have any specific questions. I think
Oh,
that's
that's fantastic. I love it, Sam. From your seat, are you more of a deal facilitator, a problem solver, or someone who protects the transaction?
That's a great question. So the answer is I'm more of a deal facilitator. I'm a salesperson. That's just who I am. I like, building relationships, generating new business, keeping existing clientele happy. So I'm technically a deal generator. My partner, Chris, who I said is an attorney, he's more of our back end, in charge of all our back end operations, which is great because we kind of complement each other tremendously. I mean, to grow a successful business, you need to bring in the business and then you need to maintain the business and make sure everything goes smoothly. So we figured out both of our strengths and weaknesses, of course, and where we could best thrive. And we've kind of determined that, I'm more on the facilitation side, he's more on the back end side, and it's worked. The answer is I'm more on the forefront.
Sam, I want to structure this around a few areas. What you actually see across transactions, where deals slow down or break, what operators consistently miss, and where systems can tighten execution. So let's start here. You're seeing deals every day. What does your day actually look like inside the business?
So my day changes daily because, as I said, I'm more on the forefront, the facilitation side. So I do a lot of whether events, you know, coffee, breakfast, lunch, cocktails, dinners, meetings, presentations, everything to that nature to, grow our business as well as maintain our existing business. So my day, it's very, very hard to give you what happens from 9 to 5. But in terms of the actual business, in terms of closing deals, we deal with a lot, like, which I can go through kind of in a way from, if you have you're purchasing a new title, you're purchasing a new asset, you send us the executed contract of sale. We then send you a title order confirmation all the way, which could be, usually 60 to 90 days, 120 days, but I'm saying all the way to closing. And then we do post-closing recording. In terms of my back end team operations, there's a lot that goes on a daily basis to make sure our files close and that everything is handled all the way from A to Z.
What type of transactions are you most involved with right now?
So as I said before, we handle all transactions, both residential and commercial, all purchases, refinances, and loans. Title insurance, you get paid at a one-time premium based off of the purchase price at closing. So at the end of the day, the larger transactions, we make more of a fee. But, I want to be a value add for my clients. So we don't like to turn away deals, based off of size or location. I would say, just to answer your question, since there's more residential volume, we handle more deals on a residential basis, but that's our volume. But in terms of focus and quality, because there's quantity and quality, we handle more commercial transactions, asset class agnostic. So little bit of mix of between everything for us.
I love it. From your perspective, what does the market feel like right now compared to a year or two ago?
Sure. So it's kind of been like this, as you could imagine. 2020 to 2022 were great years, primarily because of the rates dropping very low. I guess you could say 23, 24, things slowed down because the rates rose and people didn't really know how to, react or where the markets were going to go to. I would say in the past year, which is where we're, based off the timeline I just said, 25 to 26, there's a lot of optimism. Rates, they recently went up a little bit, but relatively in the past year, they've gone down. And, people have kind of realize where the market is at, where pricing is at, where things are going to be in the near future. And I've seen a lot of optimism and deal flow. I think transactions have risen tremendously in the past year. So I think it's definitely in an upward trend, and I only see it going up from here.
Nice. Sam, I want to talk a little bit about the deal process.
Sure.
Walk me through a deal from your side, from contract to close. What actually happens?
So, of course, things can change based off of issues because title insurance is a legal product that insures your property. So, you know, but a simple transaction is you get under contract for an asset. As a buyer, you and your attorney that's representing you will send us the executed PSA, which is the contract of sale. From there, my team will process the title order with our underwriters and our back end teams. We will send you out an order confirmation, confirming all the details. From there, we present, I should say, or, deliver a title report, a title package, which is a document containing all of the, information about the title of the property for the past up to 100, 200 years, which I can get into a little bit more. From there, we kind of go through the clearance process with, both legal teams, seller, buyer. We make sure there's no liens, encumbrances, pretty much there's no issues with the property so that when we get to the closing table, your property is free and clear and there's no issues whatsoever. Because title insurance, we ensure that there's no issues from the past. So it's very different from other insurances where you're paying monthly premiums to insure against future issues. Title insurance against the past. So we pretty much go through the clearance process to make sure that everything's clear. We're good to go. We close. We do the recording, to transfer the ownership from seller to buyer. And then that's it, pretty much.
How is this any different than a transaction coordinator?
We essentially work hand on hand with a TC, and we are like if there is no TC, we essentially are the TC for all the parties to make sure there's a smooth closing, pretty much. Because we also handle, I should have said, we also handle, disbursements, settlements. So there's a lot of more intricacies that happen, within the title process. So we're kind of like you said, we kind of control all the parties and make sure everything goes smoothly, essentially.
Who are the key players that have to stay aligned for a deal to get done?
Would say the key players, of course, is buyer and seller, which is the end parties. I think attorneys are huge, of course. I think always you should be represented by a buyer and a seller attorney. Lenders, of course, are tremendous. We work very closely with lenders. Obviously, the lender attorneys. I think brokers are very important, of course. If you have brokers, they always help in the transaction process. And then other, providers, whether insurance, appraisal, I can go on and on, but there's so many different, factors within the closing process that, each play their own part to making sure we get to the end result.
Where does communication typically break down?
It's all communication. I mean, that's essentially what it all is. I could tell you there's certain files that have thousands of emails and calls with all different parties. So that's what we kind of built our, business around. So title insurance, another fun fact about my industry, which communication plays into, is our pricing is fixed based off of the purchase price and loan amount. So we essentially charge the same price as all our competitors. There's some ancillary fees, but, we don't charge more because we don't want, it's essentially the same price. So that's where I think service comes into play. We want to make sure that everything goes 110% smoothly all the way from contract to closing because, if there was any issues, why don't you just go to one of our competitors? So I think the number one part of service is communication. And I try to make myself available, at all times. My team tries to make themselves available at all times. We're very good at responsiveness on both, emails, calls, everything really needed. And I'm a big proponent of communication because I think if you have bad communication, I think a deal could fall apart really quickly.
Amazing. Where do deals actually fall apart that nobody expects?
So title insurance, essentially, we're making sure there's not an unbroken chain of title, mistakes, errors, fraud, issues. The big factors of where it could fall apart for a title deal. Again, if it falls apart for other reasons not related to title, I don't want to get into that, but there could be a lien search. So somebody didn't unpay somebody in the past hasn't paid all their taxes. They have a mechanic lien that wasn't paid. Outstanding mortgages. Well, if you're the past seller, but you didn't pay off your last mortgage, we can't close on the property. Judgment searches, which is litigation, legal issues with the past sellers and owners could be an issue. Another one, which is sometimes affects, is encumbrances, which is easements, encroachments, restrictions. These are where, you're purchasing the property, where you got surveys and such, but you have a fence and this. So there's little factors, like I just said, that, we need to uncover and make sure everything's, taken care of. And if it's not, then the deal can't close.
Something operators think is handled, but actually isn't.
Handled, but actually isn't. I think operators, on the buy side, they don't think of these issues,
Exactly.
or in the sell side, I should say. Like, it's not, they just want to, maintain the properties, get their cash flow, buy, sell, close. And like, they don't understand the intricacies. So sometimes, let's just say there's like a little mechanics lien, in a development deal. And like, they just think like, oh, we could just whatever, forget about it. Like, they don't realize there's a lot of, work that goes into it of getting it paid off, cleared, and closed, where, you know, I'm trying to think the right words to say, but like there's just a lot of intricacies I could say that like doesn't cross a buyer or seller's mind that we handle on behalf of this. But usually it's we're able to communicate and work with them to make sure everything gets fixed. Essentially,
Sam, what separates a smooth closing from a stressful one?
I mean, I think the number one thing is communication, like you said. Like if you're waiting on specific parties that aren't getting back to you when needed, that just makes it stressful from itself. And then I think it's just the individual, being open minded, helpful, useful, working with like-minded individuals across all parties, and just everybody being on the same page, and getting to the end result, which is what everybody wants to close. So, a lot of things can go wrong, but all working together really can make it such a more enjoyable and easy process.
I've gone through the whole closing process through commercial properties and commercial deals. And for whatever reason, it fell through at the 11th hour. It's like, man, that's it's a difficult situation.
The day it's a real estate product, and I understand my product and what's needed, but in the end of the day, like, my goal, especially in my role at the company, is to build strong, long lasting relationships with my clients. So that's exactly what it is. I want them to think of me as more of a friend rather than a client, and that they can come to me really for anything. And that's what I've kind of built my business around, is like, other than providing that exceptional service, which we just talked about, I want to be a value add for you. You tell me what you're looking for. How can I drive business your way? Referrals, introduction, leads, deals, really just best understanding what my clients are looking for, you know, helping them grow. And then usually, as you could see, the business comes back to you. So
I love it. You built a strong network. How much of getting deals done is actually relationship versus process?
a lot. I mean, listen, you have to have the processes in place, because if you don't, and because you could bring in the business, I could build a relationship with you and tell you, over the best title firm, you send me a nice deal, but then my team can't deliver. You're never going to use me again. So, what was very important for us, was we built out a strong back end team with a lot of employees with a lot of experience. That once we started the company and once we've grown the company, we want to make sure that if we get the deal flow in, everything has to go smooth. So process C came first. Once we, of course, always fixing it and growing it, but like, once we thought we had the great processes in place, then it goes on to the execution side of, building those relationships where, they actually trust you. They send you that first deal. And then once everything goes smooth with the process, then they say, all right, we know we're getting from Sam's team. There are title people. This is who we're going to use for the foreseeable future. So I think they go hand on hand, but I do think processes is important to build those relationships, of course.
Love it, Sam. Let's switch gears a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about AI. You're in the middle of coordination, communication, execution. Where do you see the biggest inefficiencies today?
So there's a lot of inefficiencies. I think the three big inefficiencies. Well, listen, I want to start with this. I believe in AI. I use ChatGPT on a daily basis, which is the craziest thing of all time. I mean, if the simplest questions that, don't even cross my mind, I'm on ChatGPT all day, every day. But, I haven't really implemented or, adjusted too much into the AI industry. I see a couple different companies or, factors trying to, implement within the title world. Of course, there's always been, I don't even know if you heard, but there's always been the blockchain taking over. That's never really happened. But, based off of my expertise or what I know about AI, I think the three biggest things is like you were saying, inefficiencies would be time, money, and manpower. If you have an individual, how much time of the day do they have? Obviously it's expensive to have employees and expensive to implement new programs and such like or to hire employees. So I think that's just the simple answer where I think AI makes a huge difference, but I haven't really implemented anything within my company or looked too much into it. So I can't really get into like where I've seen change, I should say.
Of course, let's dive a little deeper into it. If you could fix one part of the transaction process with better systems, where would you start?
I think one thing, I don't know how much, I think there's always a lot of emails with a lot of parties within a transaction process. So, somehow consolidating it and having folders for certain documents and individuals and needs and such even this might be out there already, but like I think that's just one inefficiency right now is, if I'm on this call with you for 30 minutes, I could come back and there could be 100 different emails. So then like that's what I'm saying where it comes back to time is now I'm now filtering through and getting back to all those 100 emails, which is going to take another 30 minutes. And now you're just chasing back from the rest of the day. But these calls are very important, of course. So some type of efficiency like that, I think would make a big difference. I hope that kind of can answer your question in a way.
That's great. Are
Yeah.
you seeing anyone actually using automation and AI effectively yet in your title companies?
Not specifically. I mean, I've seen, as I said, through the industry, I've seen some, people, trying to, implement some of these, but I haven't internally or spoken to anybody tremendously that has made any like impactful changes. And if there is, of course, we'll adapt to it. I don't want to be behind in any way possible. So I'm not scared of making any changes or if there's something that makes sense, of course we'll go forward with it. But currently, not really.
So you're using ChatGPT. How does that help you right now?
I don't even think it's business related. I think it's just life related. I mean,
Yeah,
ChatGPT,
it's
you can
great.
take a picture. Like my wife and I are redoing a couple things in our apartment right now, and you could literally take a picture of just an open
Incredible.
space and say, put a couch from this store, a ottoman from this store, and it's incredible. I could ask the most silly questions and it prints out like this whole 3-page article about it. It's just the in seconds. The I've never seen something like it. I mean, I'm assuming you know all about it too, but just the
It's
little
unbelievable.
it's really unbelievable. And that's why, even though I haven't implemented anything with AI in my life, I should say, I see the value right there. So
Let's
it's
take the other side of it. Where does it actually create more risk? I know you're more of the on the other side a little bit, right? So tell me about that.
so I think we talked about relationships a little bit here. And I think,
For sure.
AI, kind of loses that a little bit. I think a very important part of real estate is relationships and having that personalized touch. If something is not going as smoothly as planned, you know, I can call Lewis and say, Lewis, like, this is what's going on. And we could have a conversation one on one. I think if we're implementing AI, you're losing that human touch a little bit in certain factors. So that's what I'm scared about. And, I really hope oh, I think over time people have been going away from, just picking up the phone. People are always hiding behind phones with text and email and such. And I think if, the more as AI and technology advances, you'll lose that even more. So that's where I think the negative part of it could be.
Amazing. Where do you see the future? Where do you see not necessarily AI, your industry, title companies? What do you see in the next 1 to 2 years?
1 to 2 years just goes like this. So
All
I
right,
mean,
5 years. 5 years.
Whatever, 1 to 2, 5 years. I mean, listen, I think there'll always be changes within the industry. There was a new rule and regulation that came out, FinCEN, something small, but like it came out a couple of months ago that all the everybody in my industry had to adapt to. I don't think there'll be any tremendous changes. You'll always hear the rumbling about AI, about the blockchain, about technology and such, but the traditional title insurance process has been, I don't know, hundreds of years now. And I don't see, you know, anything drastically changing in the near future. I could hopefully say my company scales and grows. We've grown tremendously in the past 2 years. So I think we hopefully can keep growing in the next couple of years. But as an industry, on a hopeful level, I like the way things are going, and I hope you know, everything keeps going the way it is.
Amazing. Where do you see success for you and your business?
I think success is measured on a bunch of different, factors. Obviously, revenue is one of them. But secondly, I think we're just looking to build on our existing, basis of what we have, bringing in new clients, maintaining our existing clients, growing our team on the back end, hiring more employees, hopefully getting more offices, just growing overall as a company. And yeah, just all the changes that really come with it.
Excellent. Let's do a little lightning round, some quick answers. Ready?
I'm always ready. Yeah, I
One
tend to
thing,
think I'm always ready.
no, no, that's great. One thing that kills a deal most often.
Communication.
That's a big one.
That word just sticking with me. I love that we talked about it a lot.
No, that's fantastic. One thing operators overlook.
Let's do problems,
Most stressful part of a closing.
documents,
Biggest red flag early in the deal.
communication,
One word to describe today's market.
growing,
What does wealth mean to you?
happiness.
Happiness? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you could do success, success, but, wealth means you're happy in what you're doing and you want to do it every day when you wake up. So I enjoy what I do.
Sam, for operators, investors, and anyone doing deals, where's the best place to connect with you?
I'm very easy to connect with. I have all social media platforms. I can, my cell phone, my email, anyway, please reach out to me. I would love to connect with everyone and discuss how we could benefit one another and, hopefully do some deals together.
Yeah, fantastic. Are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn.
Nice. So find Sam on LinkedIn. Sam, this was strong. Everyone that's listening, if you haven't actively doing deals, this is the side of the business you don't see until you're in it. The
Yeah.
difference between getting a deal done and under contract and actually getting it closed is where most of the real work happens. If you got value from this episode, share it with another one who's actively in the market. We'll see you on the next episode of the AI Edge podcast. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for having me.